Love it.
It hasn't been on a Q's in a while, dude. Did you miss this, Fred?
You did.
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I have to listen to it every single week, no matter what.
Yeah, you
That's
do.
true.
Whether I'm
you
here for it or not. I still hear it.
Let's just dive right in. We had an awesome Plumpful episode 100, which is awesome. Please go listen to that with Anthony LaPanta. We obviously have a lot of thanks to you because we do fun stuff like this, like Cues of the Beauts, because we love all of your engagement. So Fred, without further ado, what do we have this week from our loyal listeners?
First up, I'm going to say it's not a question, but from the Fab Five hockey fans, MN.
Oh, geez.
No questions, but congrats on upcoming 100 episodes. Incredible.
Thanks, Fab Five.
Thanks, guys. Sometimes I do have to step back and think of it. That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I told my boyfriend this morning, I was like, yeah, we're recording episode 100. He's like, we need to buy a cake. And I was like, you know what? We do need to buy a cake.
I think we need to buy a cake.
We need to buy a cake.
Can we have champagne too?
Yes, cake and champagne.
That sounds like a party to me.
Okay. That's pretty cool, guys. Thank you, Fab Five. Go listen to more of our thank yous in this week's episode.
Next question from Tim Johnson. Who will be the next Iowa Wild player to be called up for a non-injury reason?
The non-injury reason is what makes this question a little extra interesting, right? Because you also have to be very careful with the Iowa Wild guys because they can only play so many games before you eat into their entry-level contract. So for non-injury, I don't see it happening as of right now. I think it would have to be an injury in order to make that call. I think they're, again, trying to play it safe with Marco Rossi, Matt Boldy, obviously just getting into the lineup, I believe, this weekend. And while Adam Beckman and Connor Dwyer have been playing great, and Kyle Rowell even put in there as well, I don't think that there's a reason for them to come up here just yet. I think they, you want Iowa to be successful too. You want Iowa to do good things. So I don't foresee anybody coming up just because you want to change things up. I think right now it'll be strictly for an injury replacement. Alexis, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree 100%. And just to add to it a little bit, things have been working for the Minnesota Wild. So they haven't needed this super big shakeup of all right, some of these guys aren't playing well, you're getting sat and I'm going to bring up some of these young guys. There's no need for that right now. And like you said, Jesse, you want to allow the Iowa Wild room to breathe and room to succeed as well. Because the guys playing well down there is only going to give them a better bid for getting a chance with the Minnesota Wild when we do need them to come up and play. Like you said, Jesse, Matt Boldy just coming back from injury. That's going to take some time to get more comfortable with his game and get back into the swing of things. And if things are going well for the Wild, there's no need to shake it up. So I wouldn't mess with the formula. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and worry about that when we need to, and hope that there's no big injuries that require as much as I want to see some of these Iowa Wild guys play more long-term with the Minnesota Wild, you don't want it to be because of injury, and things are working well otherwise. So there's no need to bring them up right now.
I mean, you'll get there.
Yeah.
Here's a question I have to kind of throw in another little spark into it.
Yeah.
Which Iowa Wild player do you think needs to be brought up to keep developing mentally to show that he is succeeding?
Marco Rossi.
Yeah.
I feel like, because I think for him, it was, I don't want to say hard, but I think it was the most surprising to him as a person that he didn't make the big roster right away. I think he's the one, I think Boldy kind of expected it, right? I think it went the other way for Rossi. I think he was potentially kind of taken aback. So I think mentally,
and he's been playing really well in Iowa
and
too. So he probably feels like he deserves a chance. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And because again, there was all this hubbub about him coming in and making the roster right away. So I'm sure he bought into that a little bit. And again, he's a very talented player, no question about it. So I think for him to mentally continue to develop, and I think that's a big part of the reason why he's in Iowa. I think they just kind of thought that maybe he wasn't at an NHL mental level. But that's a good question, Fred. I like that. That's what I would say. I would say Marco Rossi is my answer.
Yeah, I would agree with it. And to add to it, Matt Boldy, I think with the injury now, I think will have an easier time accepting that he needs time in Iowa to develop a little bit and get back into the swing of his game. So if I'm him, I'm not going into this thinking, okay, I'm better now, put me on the Minnesota Wild. He's probably wants to get some Iowa Wild games under his belt. Like I said, Marco Rossi has been lighting it up in Iowa. So he probably, going in the season, he felt like he deserved a chance with the Minnesota Wild. And now, especially with the way he's been playing, probably feels it even more. And these guys understand that you get your chance when you get your chance. And sometimes it's not anything against you if you don't get pulled up. Like we were just talking about, Minnesota Wild are playing well. So there's not necessarily a need to bring anybody up and mix things up. But yeah, he probably felt like he deserved a little bit better and wants to impress the coaching staff down in Iowa and hopefully get a chance to impress them up in Minnesota. So I would agree with Jesse 100% that it's Marco Rossi.
Perfect.
Before I move on to this question,
Yeah.
is it pronounced Bo Horvat?
Yep.
Mhm.
Bo Horvat.
He's
Good job, Fred.
Good job,
Okay.
Fred.
Well, it's just phonetic.
Way to
Good
sound it
job.
out,
It's like
Fred.
how I
That's good
talked
for
to
me.
Hudson. Good job.
Hooked
Good
on
job.
phonics worked for me.
Did you trace your finger underneath the word to follow along what you're reading?
All right. Next question from Grandpa Wisdom. What would you trade for Bo Horvat or JT Miller? Would Greenway and a first be too much?
I think JT Miller would fit really, really well into this lineup. He has past chemistry with a couple of the guys. He's a little bit older, a little bit experienced. What I would give, I mean, Greenway in a first might be too much, but then again, you have so many futures coming up that I don't know that I would completely say no to giving up a first anymore. I think Greenway definitely would be in that mix. The other one I float out there, and it might just be a 1-for-1 at that point, then a Kevin Fiala, because we don't know what the next year looks like for him, right? We don't know if they're going to extend his contract, and he's going to be the one that will absolutely yield you the biggest return. And I think he could reel in a 1-for-1 with a Bo Horvat even. So, you know, I would entertain the idea. Again, I do think either one of those players would have a serviceable impact on this team immediately, which is really exciting. So yeah, I would be open to the trade. I would be open to a Fiala, a Greenway, a first round. Obviously there are a few guys that are on the no list, but those three options I think would be in consideration for me.
I think it is asking a little bit too much or offering a little bit too much to do the first round. Bo Horvat and JT Miller are both great hockey players, and I think that the Wild could benefit from having players like them on their team. But I do think first round is a little overzealous. The only thing I would say, though, is because the Wild prospect pool is looking so good, and we've already seen some of that talent on the Iowa Wild in training camp and some up on the Minnesota Wild, I also wouldn't necessarily be opposed to gambling with that one and throwing a first round pick in there and saying, okay, we've already got a lot of things working. We can take this chance here and throw in a first round pick and take a chance on a guy because, you know, not that you ever want to give up first round picks. Obviously, you'd rather have that than anything else. But when you have such a good prospect pool, I think gambling with some of those higher picks is a little bit of an easier decision for, you know, a GM to make, knowing that if it doesn't necessarily pan out, you didn't necessarily sell the farm to get it, and you already have a lot of other things working for you anyway. So I think it's too much, but if they were to gamble and throw that offer out there and have it click, I wouldn't necessarily be upset with it either. I do like JT Miller and Bo Horvat. So for either of those guys specifically, I think I would be okay with it in the end.
And I think they would be okay with leaving their current situation.
Yes. As one would.
Yes.
Next question. This comes from Tony of 10K Rinks. We all love Minnesota's depth, but how are we feeling about the top of the lineup? Is there a hole that needs to be addressed? And what do you feel is the best way to do so?
I'm going to presume that this was sent in prior to last night's game, where we obviously saw the top line, or they weren't even, I guess, the top line until they came together toward the end. But yeah. I think last night was an example of not only seeing depth work, but seeing your top line finally function as it's supposed to once they finally got back together. So I don't know that there are glaring holes if the team continues to perform like they did against Dallas. Now, obviously Dallas had a very large defensive breakdown throughout the entire game. They were flat to start. So, I mean, that's an anomaly of a game in some sorts, because you're not going to face teams like that too often. But I would say right now, I like the way the team's clicking. I like the way that they look. I would like to assess after Sunday's Tampa game to see if there are still any holes, but I don't see any huge ones right now that would be remedied with really anything that they could do. Alexis?
Yeah, I really liked this question because we have talked about the depth a lot, you know, so far in this season and what some of those lower lines have provided and the unexpectedness of the success of some of the players so far. I wouldn't say there's anything missing, though. For me, it's more a matter of finding the players who are already up there, finding their game and sticking to it consistently, I think is more of the issue than saying, oh, we don't have this talent here or we don't have this skill set here. It's there. Kevin Fiala is an extremely talented player. He just needs to start scoring a little bit more. And he's had a lot of chances and just hasn't been able to put the puck in the back of the net like we've seen him do before. So I think it's just a matter of, and Matt Zuccarello was out of the lineup for a little bit with COVID stuff. So I think it's a matter of finding that consistency. The talent is there. I'm not as concerned about it. The top line center debate doesn't seem as big of an issue for me right now, because I think things are working for the Wild. Yes, we don't have a superstar top line center.
Say it.
I'm not going to say it.
Say it.
Victor Rask is not a top line center.
He's your top line. He's your number one center. He's playing on the top line.
So yes, the Wild could still benefit from a better top line center, like a true NHL top line center, but I think things have been working. So to me, no, I don't think there's any gaps. I just need more consistency from the top six to match kind of the energy and the consistency the bottom six has been giving.
Yeah, perfect. I love it. Fred, is that it? Sorry.
That's it. I'm done.
You're done.
He's clocking out for the day.
Same. I hear my child screaming in the other room, so I should probably go be a parent that I have not been for the past 2 hours. Yes, thank you guys again for all your cues of the Beauties. Be sure to check out episode 100. Yep, 100. It's a beauty. We talk a lot more Minnesota Wild, break down a lot of that, as well as a couple more surprises that the Minnesota Wild have tossed our way this year. So subscribe, rate, share. Have a great Thanksgiving as well. Love y'all. Have a good one.